you the free senior high schools. Our schools are deteriorating very fast. There is an upsurge of private senior high schools in this country because they are beginning to be answers to the fact that our free senior high schools are not providing what it's supposed to provide. We plead with government for government to take the most pragmatic decision in the interest of education. We also call on the Ghana Education Service to immediately reinstate the headmistress of West Africa Senior High School and any other headmistress or headmaster in similar situation. Thank you very much. If my national officers who want to contribute, they are all school teachers. They are at liberty to make a contribution, please. Or we can take some questions from the media. Yeah.
I am in the case of WAS incident,
yeah,
students who defaulted were asked to sleep on the floor.
Were asked to sleep on the floor, yes. And we have evidence of that. That was the you see. I listened
to our morning show.
Yeah.
Post
mm-hmm.
on Adonai.
Yeah.
If teacher motivation fee is not forthcoming, must the student be subjected to this torture?
We need to investigate this, but I can assure you, I listened to that interview on Adom FM. The parent was exaggerating the situation. Let that parent present him or herself. Let us go to the school and authenticate this. I can assure you, if that be the case, it's an assault. And it violates the rules of Ghana Education Service. But why will a headmaster or a headmistress ask students to sleep on the floor just because they have not paid motivation? I have never heard this before. I have never heard this anywhere before. And when I also interrogated the charges leveled against the headmistress, this aspect was not part of the charges. So I'm even surprised hearing it for the first time. But you know, the proverbial Ghanaian will have to spice his or her story for it to be accepted by people.
The case of resources not forthcoming. It's been there from 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always it's been talk from teacher unions. We take action. And what action are you going to take so that government see the need to address this peculiar challenge confronting the schools?
Well, the action is taking itself. That's the situation we are seeing. But let me ask the question. Who should take action more? The parent or the teacher? The parent or the teacher? Can you cry more than the bereaved? The parents who are supposed to take action for government to respond are mobilizing themselves to make contribution towards the schools. The parents are levying themselves. And you see, I'm surprised because just carry out some media investigation. Almost every school in this country, parents are contributing, and we know it. Some schools, parents are contributing 500 Ghana cedis. Some are paying 1,500. I know a minister whose child is in a school in Cape Coast, and he pays the highest. We all know these things are good. And when they are paid, if you say the mode of collection is illegal, what about the mode of receiving? Parents contribute money, and when they present it to the school, the law says the school should make sure that every donation to the school should be receipted. That is the law. So the schools collect these monies into the school account, and it is recorded as such for the betterment of the school. So if monies were coming from government, if resources were adequately being paid for by government, why will we have the need for parents to mobilize themselves to contribute money towards the welfare of the school. And now the monies that are being collected by parents themselves is far higher than the former PTA dues. Far, far higher than the former PTA dues. I have some national officers here who are parents, whose children are students in the senior high school, and they are contributors. I have some national officers here who are parents, whose children are students in the senior high school, and they are contributors.
We'll do so. Of course, when we do, after the investigations and it proves otherwise, or probably whatever that we initially established is not confirmed, then why not? We did things for some other schools that we interdicted, before we interdicted, we established a prima facie against them per the allegations that we received. And so we have to finish with the investigation. But for us, let me establish that West Africa Senior High School headmistress was interdicted because of the allegations that we received concerning the levies that she was charging in the school. You know, we at Ghana Education Service do not have any problem with parents' associations coming together to contribute money. What we have a problem with is the fact that if you when the monies are made compulsory, when the levies are made compulsory, that across board all of you should pay this amount of money, and if you do not pay, in the case of WASH, they were paying 100 cedis for teacher motivation. Teacher motivation is being paid by government. It is part of the CSHS package. However, if parents want to even add on so that the teachers get that extra motivation, that is fine. But if you make it compulsory that if you do not pay, then for senior high schools, they will not be, their clearance forms will not be signed, and so you are compelled to. That is what we have a problem with. Parents can contribute, but it shouldn't affect the students in any way. The students must enjoy the teaching and learning, whatever that he or she is enjoying in the school, without any interference. West Africa Senior High School, apart from the teachers' motivation, they are also paying 50 cedis for parent support fees. And if you do not pay, again, your clearance will not be signed, even if you finish with your last paper. And we all know back in the day, you need everything. I mean, your clearance form must be signed. All departments must clear you before you can leave. So why should that be so? So let me put on record that we do not have any problem with parents coming together. West Africa, again, the initial investigation before she was interdicted, the money was going to the school account. The mobile number that was put out there was for the assistant head. If parents are putting together, collecting money or want to raise some funds to support the school, whatever, should you go through an assistant account, Momo account? Should you go through the school's account? We know that a number of parents are helping in a number of schools. We have not said anything. In fact, the allegations that we received, it wasn't only for WASH. We had several complaints from other schools too, but we realized that it was the parents that were contributing voluntarily. And it hasn't been mandatory. There wasn't any condition that if you do not pay, this and this would happen. But the case of WASH was different. And so for us to be able to have a clean investigation, we said then the head must be interdicted. We set aside, then we have the investigation done. After, if he's exonerated, why not to be reinstated?
So what it is that your preliminary investigations prove to the fact that if you are not able to pay those levies, you are penalized for it.
Our preliminary investigation, yes, established that, yes, indeed, they were paying money. Yes, indeed, the money that they said they were paying teacher motivations and SHS support, whatever. Yes, we established that as well. And again, we established that the monies were going through the senior assistants of the school and then going through the school, ultimately to the school account. And yes, if they do not pay the amount of money, their procurement forms will not be signed. So that was the initial fact that we established, and that is how come we based on that to interdict the head.
Okay, so it is not, you didn't find that if you don't pay, a student is made to lie on the floor. You didn't find that?
So maybe that would come up in the investigation, but what we established the fact that you would not be cleared.
Okay.
You
But
cannot
whatever is happening is because you, the managers of the schools, have created an avenue for the headmasters and headmistresses. Whatever is happening is because you, the managers of the schools, have created an avenue for the headmasters and headmistresses.
To transact business is a matter which we may have to answer to the public.
So, Kweku, what's the expectation for tomorrow? What sort of businesses were supposed to have been considered today, and which ones are to be considered tomorrow?
Well, there are key bills coming in from government. For instance, today, at the time the minority raised the issue of quorum, they were considering the Ghana UNESCO bill. It's one of the important bills that have been on the agenda of Parliament for such a long time. They've not been able to deal with it. There is also a bill from the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry on the agenda. There is a bill on the death penalty. There's a constitutional review amendment bill. There are a number of really key bills that government would have expected that they will be able to deal with it before Parliament adjourns. We know that Parliament has just 2 weeks to go on break. Next week, they will focus on the mid-year budget review, and then the following week will be the last week they would have to adjourn because they're going on break on the 3rd of August. Okay. So all these bills, the expectation is that they'll be able to take them through. But both sides have not been able to bring in their numbers on the floor. In particular, when it comes to the minority, it is intentional because initially their decision was to boycott sittings. They decided that they were not going to boycott anymore. They are going to bring some members to the floor, but only a minimal number so that they can raise matters of quorum to frustrate the doing of government business. So it is now up to the government side to bring in all their 138 MPs, but they've not been able to do so. Both yesterday and today have counted less than 50 NPP MPs on the floor, which means that more than 80 of their colleagues are absent. And the majority leader himself is not around. His deputy, Alexander Afenyamarkin, is also not around. And so the leadership of the majority side is also only left with Another Umbre, Habib Idrisu, and Lydia Al-Hassan. And they are facing a really tough time being able to deal with the minority leadership on this time. But we've said, and we've reported it on a number of occasions, that the new strategy by a tough time being able to deal with the minority leadership on this time. But we've said, and we've reported it on a number of occasions, that the new strategy by the minority...
Sure.
So, yeah, I think food inflation is a big problem because we know that poor people spend a higher fraction of their incomes on food. So when food prices are rising, the rate that we have been seeing in recent times is quite problematic, I think. But, you know, we need to understand the inflation number that you read, the 42.5, that is from June 2022 to June 2023.
Yeah.
So it means that if your income has stayed the same, then from last year, then it means that that's how much your income has lost. It's lost almost half of the value.
Yeah.
And we know that in the recent period, even though inflation has been running away, you know, wages haven't kept up. So I think that's the sense in which we see that the wages are being eroded away by the current bout of inflation that we are having. So yeah, that is expected because, again, like I said, we know that poor people spend a higher fraction of their incomes on food. So when food prices are rising, ordinarily you would think that, you know, many poor people should be net producers of food, so they would have benefited. But if you look at the pricing structure of food in this country, you know, when food prices are rising, it doesn't necessarily mean that the producers of food are the ones receiving the higher prices. Because of the pricing structure, you know, people will go to buy from the farm gate at lower prices and then come and add transportation costs, and then the middlewomen and middlemen are the ones who tend to benefit a lot more.
So really, Professor Doku, as you heard in the report, is asking for employers to pay their employees well. In this instance, how do we deal with it? Because food prices are going up. We are not being paid much. How can households then manage?
So specifically about the need for employers to pay their employees well. Yeah, for sure. You have to understand that, I mean, as an economist, the way I look at it is that pay is related to productivity. So, I mean, your employer cannot be paying you over and above what you are bringing to the value you are bringing to the company. So I think that one is very important.
But Prof, we are in an economy where even when the employee is productive, because the salary is not tied into how productive you are, and if you are on one level of a salary, that's what you take until there is an increment of a sort.
So, I mean, you know, in the private sector, you know, your task is defined. So the productivity is embedded. Your task is defined. And you notice that sometimes when people exceed their expectation, then they get paid a bonus, for instance. So that is where the productivity and the pay is going hand in hand. I think in the public sector, though, sometimes it's a little bit different because the wages are negotiated. Even though the underlying driver should be productivity, sometimes it doesn't come out clearly. So sometimes you see, you know, especially there's been concerns about the productivity of the private sector, of the public sector. We have to understand that, you know, we have to disaggregate, you know, which components of the public sector people work. So obviously some, you know, if we are working based on paying based on productivity, you get a sense that some people in the public sector will probably should be receiving higher wages. But I think the problem we tend to have is that usually the wages tend to increase across the board without really focusing on the relative contribution and the productivity. So it's good that, you know, obviously the workers have to be sufficiently well paid to be able to, you know, enjoy some good health, very good nutrition, to be very productive. So it goes hand in hand. I mean, in economics, there are some theories that say sometimes the pay should precede the productivity, with the expectation that over time the worker will pay up. But you can't discuss the pay and leave out the productivity. It always has to go hand in hand. Okay,
but how do we deal with food inflation really in this country? A country that is expected to grow more food, but we are being battered by inflation here and there. How do we keep it under control?
So there are several things across the whole chain, from the production chain to the distribution chain. There are problems all over that requires substantial investment. If you start with the production chain, one of the reasons why food prices have increased, especially since last year, is the input prices have become very expensive. Start with fertilizer. I think since sometime last year, government's fertilizer subsidy program has been in problems. So it means that fertilizer prices have gone up, seedling prices have gone up, and then other input costs have gone up. So that means that the farmers are not able to produce as much. So that's one problem. Then we also have real problems with the distribution chain. So for some of the perishable ones, we don't have enough storage equipment and the storage at closer to the farms. And then also we have problems with the distribution, the road infrastructure and the rail infrastructure linking the production units to the distribution units. So you see that a component of the high prices we are seeing now has to do with transport prices that have gone up and the fuel prices that have gone up. And then a component has to do with the actual cost of producing food that has gone up. So it means that you need investments across all these chains, starting from making sure that we invest in more creditably in irrigation so that we can have more farming, more months of farming. That's there. Then also ensuring that the farmers are getting cheaper inputs and cheaper credit to, especially fertilizer and then other things. Then also investing a lot more in the road infrastructure, linking the core food production regions to the consumption places. So we need to invest across the entire chain. But we know that this is not going to happen.
Exactly.
Even if you did that investment today, the food prices will stay high for a while, unfortunately.
Now, government in the last year or so decided to then be cutting food from the farm gate to the market centers. Is that a strategy that we should explore in a wide perspective to see how we could reduce inflation, food inflation, or this is something that is not sustainable and so we shouldn't look at that as a way of solving this food inflation issue?
I don't see that that strategy being sustainable? I mean, first of all, how many people live in Accra that, and how many people can go to the Ministry of Agriculture and buy those foods? I think there are fundamental problems. For me, that's just scratching a bit part of the surface of the problem. Okay. There are fundamental problems. So you know that there are problems with the distribution channel. So why don't you solve that particular problem? And then say you are going to cut some from some places. First of all, you can't you can't send every type of food stuff to that place. And then you really don't want people coming there. Then you have to think about what you are doing to private sector people who are investing in the food distribution chain. So I don't think that's any strategy that we should be thinking about.
So how do you solve the distribution challenge then?
So, I mean, there are different things. I think the first thing that will help is if the road networks were better, that will help. Because one problem is that at the same time that sometimes we are struggling with food in the major urban centers, you go to the rural areas and then food is there rotten. Mm-hmm. So I think, may be willing to invest in, those large trucks that will help cut the food. And then you solve the cost of sending the food from those places here. So I think, we have to look more into the infrastructure. If the road is not sustainable and we want to think about rail or other sources, but those are all long term. But clearly, in terms of the distribution, we have to start with that. Because if the roads are good, if people you should go to some of the places where the food comes from. The road is so bad, when it rains, the car just stuck, and for days they can't come. And all of that will increase the cost of bringing the food to the urban places. So I think we should definitely look at those kind of investments.
Okay. Prof, I'm grateful to you for joining us here on The Pulse. Dr. Patrick Asuming is an economist speaking to us there. Now to other stories now. And there's tension brewing at Nima in the Greater Accra region as chiefs and people of the community allege installation of a chief over them against their will. Sorry, we'll bring that report to you in our subsequent bulletins. But imagine living in a house you can only access the help of a ladder. That is the situation of a 25-year-old Nana Ya Wisdom Ishan. But his situation only mirrors what residents of New Botiano have to endure as a result of perennial floods, hanging homes caused by torrential rains, children killed by the flood, and bad roads are just some of the troubles the residents continue to endure anytime it rains. Maxwell Agbagba has more in our latest Floods of Trauma series.
It is March 2023. Flood water has forced the collapse of a building here at New Botiano. 2 children, 9 and 11 years, were swept away. They died. Their mother, Nanama, sits on the floor inconsolable after the disaster. After the collapse of the building, Nanama relocated from New Botiano. She never wanted to have anything to do with this community again. I've met 18-year-old Ransford Ebenezer Chum. The 2 children were his friends. He says he was traumatized for days.
The little one was rescued, but the 2 of them died. Their parents have not relocated. The flood water first caused the collapse of their building. Water swept away one of them, and the other one tried to rescue her, but the 2 died. They were swept away by the flood water.
Not too far from Nanama's house is another house which is virtually hanging.
Residents here tell me that a pregnant woman used to live in this house, and she also used the ladder anytime she wants to get access to her home or step out to go to town. Nana Kwame and Alex have been living here for the past 2 years. This is how they do it all the time. It's always a risky journey to get to their home. And they tell me that it's terrifying when it starts raining, and you always have to wait for the rain to subside before they come out. Okay. How long have you been staying here?
I'm staying for 2 years.
The man who lives here, Nanayaw Ishen, he says the only way to access his residence is with the help of a ladder which sits about 10 feet deep into the belly of the earth. And massive erosion caused by continuous flooding in the new Botiano community has left roads impassable and structures on the verge of collapse. Nanayaw Wisdom Eshen moved into the hanging house with his brother Alex Nana Benyin after the owner was forced by the situation to relocate with his family. Nanayaw says he has had many near-death experiences living in the house, but says he does not have the means to rent another place.
It's very, very dangerous. When the rain is falling, hard one or heavy one, and you come and stand here, even here, you listen, the flow, because there is very huge rain passes through here, so it's very, very dangerous.
So why didn't you move out of this place? So you don't have any other place?
No, I don't have any other place. I'm young to rent a house or do something else. So here is the choice I want to. Okay. Without the ladder, I won't come out. I can't come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if someone comes to move the ladder one day?
Then I will stay here till when I get a new ladder.
Niall's brother, Alex Nana Benyin, says the flood is not only destroying their building, it is also destroying properties, roads, and claiming lives.
But
we are scared anytime it rains, but we have no option. Anytime it rains, you will hear the earth trembling and shaking. They shouldn't wait until any catastrophe strikes before they decide to take action. They should deal with the problem now.
Because of
recently, the torrential rains here killed 2 children, just some meters away from where we live. The floodwater from here destroyed their structure, and city authorities were here, but they did not do anything about the situation. We are really suffering here. The entire community is suffering. The floodwater from here goes all the way to Botiano Junction, SCC Junction, and around Atala.
Here at the new Botiano taxi station, many of the drivers are worried about the state of the roads. They say the rains have caused deep gullies and them leaving the roads impassable. General Secretary of the Taxi Union, Emmanuel Adopreko, is appealing to government to fix the situation.
No, they're going to do something because they are part of Accra. Then even though at times when you ask them, they said this place is not in the government schedule that they are coming to do the route. But we are because people are living here. Those who are here, let's make this, they can even more than 5,000 plus.
The situation at New Botiano does not only pose a challenge to residents, but persons who use the Accra-Takoradi Highway. The flood water and silt from the community and other parts of the Weja-Kasa Ridge are dumped on portions of the highway, resulting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. A resident, Eric Jano, says until authorities deal with the problem from the source, residents of New Botiano and persons who use the Accra-Takoradi Highway will continue to endure the floods of trauma.
Now to our earlier story where there's tension brewing at Nima in the Greater Accra region as chiefs and people of the community alleged installation of a chief over them against their will. Addressing a media briefing earlier this morning, the chairman of the Council of Zongo Chiefs in Ayawaso East and West, Sariki Louis, says the installation should be rescinded to forestall imminent tension.
On the 12th of July 2023, we woke up to the news that one Robert Kumsin, also known as Ni Odokwao II, head of the Odokwao family, was in the process of installing one Abachina as their representative in Nima, and also as the chief of Nima. In the day, the third Abachina, Gimbala, and his cohorts were seen driving through some streets of Nima, shouting in the air and ostensibly to announce its installation by Robert Coulson, also known as Neil Oduikwa, to the surprise and chagrin of onlookers. Ladies and gentlemen, we the people of Nima are gravely concerned about the import of the actions of Robert Coulson and its probably consequence in the Nima community. We honestly believe that this action of Robert Coulson, also known as Neil Oduikwa II, seeks to instigate disquiet in the Nima community with missions of the land disputes in the 1940s. There has been long-standing peace between the families and the Nima community. It therefore comes as a shock and surprise to all of us that the new Oduikwa family will choose to ignore and abandon this appeals, court consent, judgment, and seek to engage in an act that is aimed at destabilizing our community. The chief of Nima. We, the people of Nima, have lived with our chief and have organized our affairs together in peace and tranquility all these years. We are therefore sending a stern warning to the head of the Oduikwa family and surrogates that enough is enough. We will not entertain any insults and disrespect. Yes. We will not entertain any disrespect, and that it does not lie with them to choose chiefs or leaders for Nima. We demand the immediate reversal of what they are reported to have done.
So for them, they want the right things to be done to ensure that an imminent tension is forestalled. This is still the Pulse on the Journey channel. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Twelve ambitious talents, 11 weeks of intense grooming, 7 talents have dropped off. Now, down to the final 5. Who emerges the winner for the maiden edition of Joy Prime's Cues and Lyrics and goes home with the 20,000 cash prize, an all-expenses-paid trip to Dubai, a recording deal, and other amazing products from our sponsors: TM Music, Lovette, Kwabena Mufasa, Traegan, Limwell. Who wears the crown? Vote for your favorite to glory by short code *711 *60#. Join us on Saturday, July 22, 2023, 8 p.m. at the Silicon Production House, Tesano, as we treat you to back-to-back performances and the crowning of the ultimate winner of Cues and Lyrics. It will be a night of great music with special performances from superstar TZ, Mighty, and the newest sensation on the music scene, King Paluta. Come cheer your favorite to victory. Attendance is free. Guests must be seated by 7 p.m. Cues and Lyrics is sponsored by Syntex Tank, Aya Strong, Aya Tough, Adansa Travels, and Ghana AIDS Commission. Cues and Lyrics, bring on the music. Joy Prime, your ultimate experience.
The distinguished patronage of His Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Ghana National College celebrates its 75th Speech and Prize-Giving Day under the theme 75 Years of Holistic Education, Nurturing Leaders for the 21st Century. Date, July 22nd, 2023. Time, 8 a.m. Venue, Ghana National College, Cape Coast. The celebration will be climaxed with other landmark events as follows. July 16th, Regional Church Service. July 19th, Inter-House debate. July 20th, Nananum Inspire followed by a sit down. July 21st, football gala, AGM, flag raising ceremony and more. July 22nd, speech and prize giving day, fundraising dinner dance. July 23rd, Thanksgiving service, swearing in new executives, Omuto Fufu gathering, pool party. Nananum Enyansafo.
Score HD, the new exciting football channel, is now available only on HD Plus and brings you football from around the world. Watch Sadio Mane and Daniel Kufitre in the top weekly match of the Bundesliga 1 and DFB Cup, Primera Liga, Copa de la Liga Profesional, see Ronaldo in the Saudi Pro League, as well as daily sports news every other hour. Also, get updated on Messi and Mbappe on PSG TV and many more. Feely on HD Plus channel 151. Agronaede, HD Plus, the Feely experience.
We've had news file over the weekend, and an interesting part of the conversation focused.
Oh no, we are out of range.
Oh, don't worry, Daddy. I have Alexa in my bag.
Alex, what?
Alexa, open Multimedia Ghana and play Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy FM.
Super Hits Radio, Joy 99.7.
Listen to Joy.